All right, so I'm just putting the axes on there. So now we're going to do special angles for 30 degrees and 60 degrees. We're going to start with a 30 degree. So here's a point, and then this is a 30 degree angle. 30 degrees, okay? Now and the radius is 1 because it's on the unit circle. What we do is we look at this triangle that's being formed there, you know, the sine and the cosine, and then we're going to flip it over. We're going to reflect it down this way. So there is a triangle here that has the same radius, and then this is another 30 degrees, right? Okay, so the radius is 1 here. Well, that makes an equilateral triangle, okay? So with an equilateral triangle, ugh, that's not a very good drawing. All right. Can't get that line to go right. Let's try again. Last time. Now, I don't know if it looks very equilateral. But in an equilateral triangle, all three sides are equal. So if the radius was 1 here, the radius is 1 here, and that means this whole side then is 1. Also, the angles are equal. So this is 60 degrees, this is 60 degrees, and this is 60 degrees. Okay? So 60 degrees. Then the big one is 60 degrees. Okay. Now, what we want, though, is just this little triangle right here. We only want half of it. Okay, so there's the little triangle, right triangle. This is 30 degrees because half of 60. This is going to be 1/2 because you've got the two sides here and they're the same length. So if the total is 1, they each have to be 1/2. And then the radius here is still 1. Now we're going to use the Pythagorean Theorem, and we're going to say, we can use the identity. So we can say the cosine of 30 degrees plus the sine, cosine squared of 30 degrees, sine squared of 30 degrees is equal to 1. Okay, now here's the point here, right there, right there, right there, on the unit circle. So we're saying we know the y, we don't know the x, but we know the y, or we know the sine. So the sine of 30 degrees is equal to 1/2. Okay, so think about, you know, a point and the coordinates, and hopefully that'll make sense to you. Okay, so cosine squared of 30 degrees plus 1/2 squared equals 1. And then you're going to say cosine squared of 30 degrees plus 1/4 equals 1, or cosine squared of 30 degrees, this is the fun trigonometry here, equals 3/4. And then we take the square root of both sides, so cosine of 30 degrees is equal to, plus or minus, I'll put that in for now, the square root of 3/4, because we're showing you where these come from. We're in the first quadrant, so it's got to be positive. So cosine of 30 degrees is equal to the square root of 3/2, and it's going to be positive. Okay? The sine, we already did that. We explained that kind of earlier. The sine of 30 degrees had to be 1/2. So we want to remember those. I always remember the sine of 30 degrees is 1/2. And that you might be saying, wow, this is a lot to remember. It is a lot to remember. But two things. One, I remember the sine of 30 degrees is 1/2. From there, I can figure out the rest of what I need to know, and we'll show you how to do that. And I remember that the sine of a 45-degree angle is the square root of 2/2. If you can remember those two things, you can use that information to find everything else. Okay, speaking of finding everything else, now we're going to think about in terms of the 60 degrees. Okay, so if this was 30 degrees here, then this has to be 60 degrees up here. And you can get that from the picture that we had earlier. So now let me draw a triangle. This is 30 degrees, and this is 60 degrees. Okay. I don't know if this is going to make sense to you. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to turn that triangle. So I'm going to draw a triangle over here that's going to be like this. So think about rotating that triangle, and now this is the 60 degrees, and the 30 degrees is up here. Okay? That means that now I have a triangle like, well, let me erase that other triangle. Well, it's okay. Now I have a triangle like this with my 60 degrees here and my 30 degrees up here. So that means now the side along the x-axis is 1/2, and then the y-axis part is the square root of 3 over 2. So it's this, there's a point up here. You know, if I'm on my unit circle, whoops, pretend like that's on the unit circle. Let's make it really thick. Okay. And then you know the coordinates for that point. 1/2, comma, square root of 3 over 2. So you know the sine and you know the cosine. So cosine of 60 degrees is equal to 1/2, and the sine of 60 degrees is equal to the square root of 3 over 2. So see, they kind of switched places. Okay? Cosine of 30 degrees is equal to the sine of 60 degrees. And the sine of 30 degrees is equal to the cosine of 60 degrees. Okay.